Aloha everyone, and welcome to another video by me, K. Elmer, and in this video I would like to share with you something much more serious than any of the other topics that I've covered in my prior videos. And this is the potential for vitamin C to be a treatment for the coronavirus. And I'm going to tell you in a second exactly what I mean by that. I have to jump into the disclaimers real quick, so if you'll bear with me. The medical information on this video is provided as an information resource only and is not to be used or relied on for any diagnostics or treatment purposes. This information is not intended to be patient education, does not create a patient-physician relationship, and should not be used as a substitute for professional diagnostics and treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any healthcare decisions or for guidance about a specific medical condition. The author of this video expressly disclaims responsibility and shall have no liability for any damages, loss, injury, or liability whatsoever suffered as a result of your reliance on this information contained in this video. The author of the video does not endorse specifically any test, treatment, or procedure mentioned. By viewing this video, you agree to the foregoing terms and conditions, which may from time to time be changed or supplemented by the author. If you do not agree to the foregoing terms and conditions, you should not view this video. I would also like to add that I do not endorse any of the products that are shown in this video. I don't get paid in any way. I have no affiliations. I don't make money in any way, shape, or form with these videos. This is purely part of my learning journey, and I've done a lot of research lately, for obvious reasons, on the coronavirus, and I've discovered some information that I feel is very, very important to share with you. So let's jump in. Now, the most important thing that I wanted to point out right away is that there was a press release. Today is Monday, February 17. There was a press release 4 days ago from the Zhongnan Hospital in Wuhan, China, is now doing a clinical trial with 24,000 milligrams of vitamin C to be administered to the coronavirus patients intravenously for 7 days. This popped up on ClinicalTrials.gov's website. So now there's two things that I get from this is one, that they're running out of ideas, and two, they're actually going to go to some alternative methods that normally Big Pharma has looked down upon. This is very significant that the coronavirus is now, or the Chinese are now researching high-dose vitamin C. And I'm going to get into the actual documented research on vitamin C's efficacy towards multitude of different infectious diseases here in a second. But just to point this out, this is a huge development in the seriousness of this situation. If one, that they're actually publishing that they're doing this, and see that they're actually doing it. So this is quite amazing. The second thing I want to point out, in addition to vitamin C, there's hospitals in Korea that are actually using oxygen therapy for coronavirus as well, and they're actually getting working results. So you can, by the way, all of the links and everything that I'm showing you is in the video description. I encourage everyone to do their own research, and by all means, you should know what you're doing and you should understand the situation. But this is two incredibly valuable pieces of information that just came out this week on what can possibly help you and help your family when and not if this arrives at your doorstep. So now, with that in mind, I just want to point out that my last video, which was how to treat viruses or viral infections with the Bob Beck protocol, this is a little bit of validation towards what the work of Bob Beck, because as I demonstrated, or as I mentioned in that prior video, the Bob Beck protocol consists of four major steps, which is blood electrification, colloidal silver, ozone, and PEMF. And then I had mentioned in that video that I also personally add liposomal vitamin C as part of my regimen. But I want to point out that two of the five things that I mentioned are now being tried in China to try to treat the coronavirus, and also South Korea. And we know for a fact that the Korean one is working. So these are two of the Bob Beck. So if anyone is very interested in what that protocol is, then definitely go look at that other video, link in the description. So I just wanted to share that. So the first thing I want to mention for everybody out there is, you wouldn't think that a vitamin would possibly help. And that is absolutely, you're right on to think that, because it just doesn't make any sense. We've gone to doctors and pharmacies, but it's true that there is. If you do the research, okay, and I just implore everyone, do the research. If you find this to be strange information to you, for those of you who get it, good for you. But if you're uncomfortable with this idea, let me share something the tip of an iceberg of a tremendous body of knowledge that will then give you the actual data, that whatever level of data that you need to feel comfortable. I'm going to be quoting two doctors, Dr. Thomas Levy, Dr. Robert Cathcart in this video, and I'll also be quoting a nutritionalist. His name is Andrew Saul. So one of the things that I do want to mention, and for those of you who are into the science of things, is a quote by Dr. Robert Cathcart. And basically he wrote in one of his documents, I've read so many, is he said, "I want to emphasize first that the main reason that massive doses of vitamin C work against infectious diseases has little to do with the vitamin C functions as ordinarily understood. They work in massive doses because we are throwing away the vitamin C for the extra electrons carried. These extra electrons neutralize the free radicals, molecules missing electrons, that mediate all inflammation and cause the symptoms and deaths from these infectious diseases. It is not really a matter of medicine, it is a matter of chemistry." All right? So that's a very important aspect of the idea of, hey, how could vitamins, or vitamin C specifically, treat an infectious disease? It's not about medicine. It's about chemistry. So let me just kind of walk you through a little bit of, and all of the links are in the video description, and I encourage everybody to go down that path and to take a look at the research. But the most important thing I could share with you, if you have any doubt whether or not vitamin C could possibly work, even though the Chinese are actually trying to use it now, is to look at this video that I put a link in there. It's the Applications of Vitamin C, Theoretical and Practical by Dr. Thomas Levy. He did a 3-part lecture series, and this is part 3. It is a 2-hour video, all right? But I'm pointing out one slide of his PowerPoint presentation in his lecture. And this was done back in July 2017. And I wanted to point out this slide because I think it's profound. Because in this lecture, this 2-hour lecture, he goes over all of the documented history of how vitamin C has been curing diseases, all sorts of different diseases, and all of the different studies that have been done by all these different doctors over time. And so he covers this entire 2-hour body of knowledge that says, hey, here's the proof, all right? And so this is just the one slide, and I just wanted to share this with you because this is a study that he shares in this video where he basically showing what vitamin C has been already proven to do. There was a 1949 study in which they treated polio victims with vitamin C. And I want to point this out right here. 60 of the 60 cases were cured. 60 of the 60 patients were cured. And if you listen to this lecture, I believe 57 of them were cured in a few days, and then the other 3 took a few more days after that. And they were cured of polio. No vaccines, no medicine, high doses of vitamin C did that. So there's other research that is linked in the video description. Vitamin C and its application to the treatment of coronavirus. There's an article on orthomolecular.org. There's a study that's been done by the efficacy of vitamin C in reducing duration of severe pneumonia in children, and this is what coronavirus is doing. Its first mutation is the cause of death is ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress, and that's essentially pneumonia, and that's what's killing everybody is that level, the problem with their lungs. And here is a study that was done with children that showed vitamin C greatly reduced the symptoms that were of pneumonia in children. There's nutritional treatment of coronavirus. So here's just a really good article, some background on influenza and SARS and so forth, and then basically the recommendation of nutritional supplements that will help you protect yourself from coronavirus. Also included in the video description is this article by Dr. Cathcart on the treatment of infectious diseases with massive doses of vitamin C, and this is where he talks about it, and then he's got all of his reference links there as well. So, that is the research. I don't want to spend an hour talking about the research. I just want to let you know that it exists, and it's there in the video description. I encourage you to read it. It is proven vitamin C works for infectious diseases. That's my point. Now, moving right along. What's the difference now between the different forms of vitamin C you could take? So, in the clinical trial in China right now, in Wuhan, they're using intravenous vitamin C. So if you notice that in the article, let me go back to it. Right here, basically, they're talking about that China is conducting a clinical trial of 24,000 milligrams per day intravenous. That's through your IV, right? And so what's the difference between intravenous, regular vitamin C that you take, capsules, and then this other thing called liposomal vitamin C? There's 3 ways you could take it. You could take it with an IV bag, needle into your vein. You could take it tablets right off, right you buy at the drugstore, or you could take it through another means called liposomal vitamin C. All right, and I want to walk you through the 3 ways. The very first thing is, what's the difference between regular vitamin C and liposomal vitamin C? So probably a lot of you know that vitamin C is water soluble, right? And so you don't really absorb, if you take anything over 2,000 milligrams a day, or literally it's the actual number is 1,250 milligrams. If you take more than that, the more you take, the less and less and less your body absorbs, because you immediately get saturated, and then your body goes, oh, I had enough, and then it just flushes the rest of the vitamin C out. Okay, so if you try to do a high dosage vitamin C, which is, obviously, the clinical trial in China is 24,000 milligrams. So obviously, you'd be taking well over the threshold. If you took 24,000 milligrams of vitamin C by tablet, all right, your efficacy rate, or the ability for that vitamin C to work for you to absorb it, would be only 16%, because of the way your body eliminates soluble substances. So it's only got a 16% absorption rate by tablet. So clearly this is why the Chinese are using intravenous, and they're not using tablets. They're not just giving people pills. All right, so that's a very important part. So we're going to put regular vitamin C off to the side now, and let's talk about liposomal. The thing about liposomal and what liposomal is, and I'll actually show you some diagrams, but it's basically taking the vitamin C molecule itself and wrapping it in fat cells. And when you wrap a substance or a nutrient and wrap it in fat cells and you ingest it, your body takes it in as fat. It thinks it's food, and it gets processed through your lymphatic system. And liposomal vitamin C has shown that it has a 98% efficiency. That means that if you take vitamin C in a liposomal form, wrapped in fat, then you will actually absorb 98% of the vitamin C that you take. So you can imagine that it is literally the most efficient way to take vitamin C with the least amount of loss. Like, you're over here at 16%, you're basically you're urinating literally, 84% of the vitamin C you're taking, you're urinating it out, and that's essentially money down the drain and a lot of wasted time. Over here, you're going to get literally all of it. Okay, so the next thing that's important to understand is, okay, so what's the difference between intravenously taking vitamin C through a IV bag and needle, or drinking liposomal vitamin C? And this is where the research gets fascinating. The research by Dr. Thomas Levy found that through years of clinical experience, that a much smaller oral dose of what he called lipospheric, which is liposomal, same thing, vitamin C, all right? There you could take literally, and this is what he found, that 5 to 10 grams of liposomal vitamin C often results in a similar clinical response as a much larger dose of vitamin C given intravenously, 25 to 100 grams, which is monumental. That means that liposomal is by far the most efficient way, far above intravenous. If you look at these two numbers, you're looking at anything from 80% to 10%. So, you would only have to take either 10 or 20% as much of the vitamin C through liposomal as you would IV, and you would get similar results. This is a critical number. Keep track of this 10 to 20%. Okay, the 5 to 25 is 20%, and then 10 to 100 is 10%. So it's a 10 to 20% spread. Okay, and I'm going to be getting into the dosages in a second. So this is profound. It's very important. It means that liposomal vitamin C is the way to go. All right. So now, let me explain a little further, as I said, what exactly that is. So a couple of things. In order to make liposomal vitamin C, you use Lethicin. So what is Lethicin? Well, Lethicin is simply a phospholipid phospholipids. It's fat cells, okay, in oil obtained by water degumming the extracted oil of seeds. So that's what this is. It's got a hydrophilic head and it's got a hydrophobic tail, and that's what it looks like. Kind of, this is a drawing, right? But this is what a little fat cell looks like. And then what happens is when you take lecithin and you put another nutrient in it, and you could put like vitamin C. This is how we make C60 oil. You can do liposomal glutathione. There's lots of different things you could make with liposomes, where you add a nutrient, you add lecithin, water, and then you've got liposomes. Okay. Now a liposome is a spherical shaped vesicle that is composed of one or more phospholipid bilayers, which closely resembles the structure of cell membranes, which is how your body thinks of it as food, and that's how you absorb it. So what happens is the vitamin C molecule gets trapped in a layer of these little phospholipids, and it kind of like masks it, where the vitamin C is now hidden in fat, and the body thinks it's food. So that's what a liposome is, and that's what liposomal vitamin C is. It's a whole bunch of those liposomes with vitamin C on the inside and lecithin on the outside, and it tricks the body into thinking it's a fat cell. So now, let's step back for a sec and go, okay, well, with all that said, all right, well, how much would I take? How much of liposomal vitamin C should you take? Should you be worried about coronavirus and, God forbid, you get it, or someone you love gets it? Okay, so here's some back of the napkin math that I did. I want to share with you, and it is completely estimated. All right, so just bear with me. It's all estimations. Nothing's proven. The trial just started, but with coronavirus. Okay, but there's a lot of proven science for other viruses that have been around for a while, and that's kind of where I'm putting my numbers together. You'll see here as I talk about it. So now this is what I'm thinking is the estimated dosage of liposomal vitamin C. First things first, the formula for vitamin C, liposomal vitamin C, okay? If I wanted to make a little batch of liposomal vitamin C, the simplest formula is I take 1 tablespoon of vitamin C and put it in 4 ounces of water. I take 3 tablespoons of lecithin, put it in 8 ounces of water, and mix them together. What that gives me is 12 ounces of liposomal vitamin C. That's a soda can, right? Can of soda full of liposomal vitamin C by mixing these 3 things together. So now if you weigh out how much that vitamin C weighs, 1 tablespoon of vitamin C, and by the way, there's going to be a video at the end, 1 tablespoon of vitamin C equals 12 grams. Okay, I weighed it out, which is 12,000 milligrams. So now if you remember that quote, where Thomas Levy said that 5 to 10 grams of liposomal has the same results as 25 to 100 grams of IV, intravenous. So if you take that math and you say, all right, the Chinese in Wuhan are doing a clinical trial right now of 24,000 milligrams of IV vitamin C per day, right, for 7 days. So that equates to, if you were to do the math on that, what's 10, basically this is my range, right, the 10 to 20%. If I wanted to do 10 to 20% of that, I would be taking, as in liposomal form, all right, I'd be taking 2,400 to 4,800 milligrams per day, if in lipo form. And how does that translate to the actual ounces of liposomal vitamin C? You would be drinking 2.4 to 4.8 ounces of liposomal vitamin C per day. So this clinical trial with this amount of intravenous vitamin C for 24,000 milligrams of IV, if you, instead of giving them IV, you could, the same result you would get with 2.4 to 4.8 ounces of liposomal vitamin C per day. So if you wanted to, let's say, duplicate the trial, that's as much liposomal vitamin C that you would need to drink. Okay, but here's some more data. In the research that I was looking at, there's this one article that I found that talked about the treatment of infectious disease. So I'm sorry here. And so in this article, this was about SARS. And so Andrew Saul wrote the article, and he basically was researching SARS way back in, I think it was at least 10 years ago, right? And so there's this paragraph in this article I found to be really amazing. He mentioned, and right here is the quote, and I took it right out of this article. Of course, links are available in the description. And this is what the paragraph says. He says basically, Dr. Cathcart advocated treating influenza with up to 150,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily, all right, often intravenously, right, but when he himself, Andrew Saul, had pneumonia, remember what's killing people? It took him 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C every 6 minutes by the clock to get me to saturation. His daily dose to when he personally took vitamin C for pneumonia was over 100,000 milligrams a day. His fever, his cough, and other symptoms were reduced in hours. Complete recovery just took a few days. So, what I would like to propose to everyone who's watching this is, albeit that the Chinese are doing a clinical trial at 24,000 milligrams per day IV, translates to 2.4 to 4.8 ounces of liposomal vitamin C per day, I would say to err on the side of caution, to err on the side of being conservative. I don't think you could throw enough at this thing. If coronavirus were to hit my loved ones, I'm not going to, I would just literally do as much as I could. So I personally, after reading this, would like to just suggest, and this is an estimate again, that if you took these numbers here, it converts to 16,000 to 30,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day. And in a lipo form, you're looking at 16 to 30 ounces of liposomal vitamin C per day that you would be drinking if you were to take these numbers and say, okay, well, how do I convert that to liposomal vitamin C, and how much would I need to drink, right? And this is what it comes down to. So there's a couple of ranges. It's not an exact science. The Chinese are doing 24,000 this way, but it'd be if you were doing it at home, because we are mere peasants. We don't have access to IVs, and if there was a massive outbreak in your city, I doubt you could even get into a hospital, right? So if you were going to try to do this at home, you could either follow what the trial is doing and maybe drink, on the conservative side, 5 ounces a day, or you could go super conservative I guess the other actually it's aggressive, right? Or you get aggressive and you can go 30 ounces a day. But that's the range, okay? Because this is not an exact science. It hasn't been proven what it does. I mean, they haven't learned what it does against coronavirus. But as I showed you, and that one slide, and if you watch that 2-hour lecture, you will see that it nails hepatitis, it nails polio, it nails all sorts of infectious diseases, and that is what coronavirus is. But right now, nobody knows what that number is, and these are the data points that I've been able to collect to kind of guess at what that number is. All right, so going forward in this video, I want to just let you know I'm focused on this number here. I'd rather take the higher number than the lower number. You want to be aggressive about this, and this is the number I'll be basing the rest of the numbers off of, okay? So taking that number, and if you had to, let's say, stock up a bit because you want to make sure you're prepared for this to be able to self-treat at home, because we're going to get quarantined if this happens. If you need to self-treat, how much do you need? So what would be your burn rate? How fast would you be burning through the supplies? And now I'm going to make a couple of assumptions, right, in order to calculate these numbers. The first assumption I want to make is that one, quote, treatment is daily for 14 days. And again, I'm being aggressive. Andrew Saul said that he was completely cured from pneumonia in 7 days. I've also read other articles that are saying that the reinfection rate is critical, that you would need to completely nail it. Like taking antibiotics, you have to do the full regimen. You can't just take half the bottle or it comes back worse. That's what your doctor always tells you, right? So in my mind, it's like, hey, if Andrew Saul is 7 days for pneumonia, I'm going to double that to 14. That is my assumption. I'm going to throw everything I got at it, and I'm just going to hit it hard. 14 days. I'm going to do twice as long, and I'm going to take the highest dose between 16 to 30. And you know what? Andrew Saul's a grown man, so it would be different for women, different for children, so forth. So those are the assumptions I made with these numbers. I'll just, I won't walk you through the specific numbers, but with the vitamin C, 1 tablespoon equals 12 grams, so it's basically 1 gram per ounce. You apply these numbers to it, and you're going to need anywhere from a half to a full pound per day. I'm sorry, not per day, per person. And then the amount of lecithin you would need, because remember now, the lecithin, it's 1 tablespoon to make 12 ounces of liposomal, but with lecithin, you need 3 tablespoons for the same 12 ounces, right? It all goes into the mix together. And those 3 tablespoons weighs 30 grams. I weighed it this morning. So it's 30 grams of lecithin, 12 grams of vitamin C will make you that 12 ounces of lipo, and the water, right? Which comes out to, so the lecithin comes out to 2.5 grams per ounce. You apply these ratios, and you get 1.23 to 2.3 pounds per person, and a person is 14 days. So that's what this looks like right here. So if you were going to stock up, you need to think, all right, well, if everybody in my family, if I have 4 people, right, let's say, like for me, I have 3, right? So I have 3 humans, and so the 3 of us are going to need 1 set of this each if I were to self-treat at home. So I would need, 6 pounds of lecithin and 3 pounds of vitamin C to do 1 treatment for all 3 of us. And, in the event of reinfection, I probably want more than that. That's all up to you. But that's what I'm doing. So I'm essentially preparing for 2 treatments per person in my family, to have that much stock on hand and to be ready for this should it happen. And if you've read the news, Hawaii is one of the 7 cities that's still accepting flights from China. So that's kind of where my brain's at right now. You can try to imagine. Okay, so that's what the burn rate would be. That's how much you need to stock. The one thing I don't have a slide for is, okay, let's say you make a whole bunch of it, right, and at one time, and you don't want to make it a little bit at a time. How long will it store? And you know what? I've made this, and I've stored it into my... By the way, I've been making liposomal vitamin C for a long time. And I discovered that I could make a big batch of it, like a gallon, stick it in the fridge, and it's going to be good for months and months and months. It's basically fat, and so it's just the same thing as, your milk goes bad, but liposomal vitamin C doesn't go bad because it's got this vitamin C in it. Vitamin C is what? It's an antioxidant, so it unless it gets completely oxidized, you'll be fine. But I wouldn't go more than, let's say, 6 months, just to be on the safe side. I don't know what the number is. I'm guessing, but I just from experience, okay? So that's what I would say. So yeah, you'd want to make a big batch, but it's not going to store forever. Nothing does, right? Well, I'm sorry, some things do, but we'll go there. All right, that's that. So now, how do you make liposomal vitamin C? I kind of touched on this in the Bob Beck protocol video. Let me walk you through the actual specifics. The first thing you need is your materials. Obviously, you need vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid. You need sunflower lecithin. Do not use soy lecithin for a whole lot of reasons. Just sunflower lecithin, and then you want to use distilled water, or you could use filtered water, but I use distilled water. This is what I do. Okay, now the equipment, it's optional. This is the thing. I did a video I'm going to show you here where I decided to do it the traditional way, and I tried to tinker with 2 different ways to do it. Sorry, I'm a tinker. I just have to tinker. So I tried 3 different ways you could do it to show you what it looks like. You could do 3 different ways. So I used a blender, just a blender. I used an ultrasonic cleaner, and I used a magnetic stir to kind of see what the differences would be. So you could pick any one of these 3, whatever makes you happy. All right, to make liposomal vitamin C. Now, the formula is very simple. It's 1 tablespoon of ascorbic acid, of the vitamin C, in 4 ounces of water, 3 tablespoons of lecithin in 8 ounces of water. You dissolve them separately. So in one container, you dissolve the lecithin, and that's the blender. I'll show you why you need a blender for that. And then you have to, in a separate cup, you dissolve the ascorbic acid in water. So you have 2 different solutions, right? And then you mix them together. And then with using a blender, a cleaner, or a stir. These are the 3 ways you could mix the 2 solutions. You got 2 cups of things, and you put them together: blender, cleaner, stir. Okay, that's it. So let me walk you through the costs, because I know everybody always goes, well, what's this cost? If you bought per person for the supplies, okay, total of $41.38 per person. You need 1 pound, right, and 2 pounds. And you'd have, this is right now, links in the video description, just an estimate, if you were to buy those brands, that quantity. If you bought bigger quantities, way cheaper. All right, so the most it would cost you is $41.38 per person. And then, of course, the equipment, depending on what equipment you want to use. These are the basic prices for the cleaner, the mixer, and the magnetic stir. Now, the one thing about the magnetic stir is this is a good enough price for a good enough magnetic stir for the average human. The one I'm showing in the video is way overkill for you. If you're just, if you're not, because I use magnetic stirs all the time because I make C60 oil. So I've got a very expensive, very fancy one. So don't recommend that. I'm just telling you get a simple, cheaper one, okay? All right, so I'm not there yet. So let me go ahead and jump into the video and walk you through how to make it. So here's the how-to part. So in this part right here, this is your typical sunflower lecithin, ascorbic acid, vitamin C, okay? Now, I'm just using up some, I bought a bunch of this stuff, but I'm using up some supplies. So in this video, I'm using phosphorylated choline, sorry. And it is a lecithin, but it's an extract of lecithin, and it's a much higher concentrate. I'm just using up supplies, all right? If you're going to make your own, just do it this way. But in the video, I am just using up supplies because this is older. So I've got a jar full of sodium sorbate, which is vitamin C, and I've got this, and that's just what I used, okay? But and I just wanted to point that out that normally I got a whole bunch of that stuff, but I'm just using up some old stuff, and this is what I use in the video. Okay, so now this is the equipment you need. You're going to need a little cup and a spoon, something to put it in, your water, the little blender, and then of course the ultrasonic cleaner. What's not pictured here is a measuring spoon, okay? But you need a tablespoon to measure out everything with, and first thing you do is you want to heat the water. And I do it by touch, and so I put my finger, I basically, if I can put my finger in there and it's hot, but not where I have to pull it out, that's good enough, and that's where you want it. You don't want to make it too hot, you don't want to boil it, so I just heat it up in my little hot pot, and I heat up the water, and then just so that, like I said, and so I'm guessing it's like about 105, 110, and that's it. So not too hot, okay? So you just want to warm up the water because the warmer it is, the easier things dissolve. Now, what this demonstration right here is that if you just try to add the lecithin to warm water, okay, it doesn't dissolve, so it's just going to clump up. So you really you'd have to have a blender for this. All right, so look at this, right? As if you just try to stir it up like that, it just clumps up and it will not dissolve. And you need it to dissolve. So instead, you have to basically put it in a blender. So that's your 8 ounces of water, right? 3 tablespoons plus 8 ounces of water. Sorry, this is incorrect. Sorry. I just realized that now. So that's 3 tablespoons with 8 ounces of water, total of 12 when you're done. Okay, you put it in the blender, and this is what it looks like. It's very foamy, but don't worry about it. Okay, so that's just the lecithin and the 8 ounces of water. I'm very sorry about the typo. So then the next thing you want to do is you want to dissolve the vitamin C. So in order to dissolve the vitamin C, it's 4 ounces of water. It's warm water, 1 tablespoon of vitamin C powder in the 4 ounces. Luckily, I got the number right on this slide. And then you just mix it up with a spoon. And it really dissolves very, very quickly. So you let it dissolve, and now you've got your second container, right? You've got 1 container of lecithin dissolved and 1 container of vitamin C dissolved, and you got the 2 separate, all right? So the next thing you want to do is this is your 3 options again. So you want to mix them together now at this point. So you can either use a blender, a cleaner, or stir. So here's the thing. I didn't video me blending for 90 seconds because that's kind of like, it's like, okay, you get it, right? So you could either use the blender, and I just did it for 90 seconds on low. I just held my finger on it and just let it go for 90 seconds, and that's batch 1. The second batch is coming up, and this is how you would do it. Now, how you do it with ultrasonic cleaners is actually the traditional way. It's the way that most people do it from the old days, right? And so you just pour the vitamin C mixture in first, then you pour the lecithin mixture in there next, and then you get a spoon, you stir it up a bit. I'm talking faster than the video's going. There you go. And then you just stir it up. That's it. And you turn the thing on for 8 minutes, 480 seconds. You turn it on, and it's going to just vibrate, and it's going to mix up everything together with ultrasonic waves, and boom, that's your solution. The third way is using a magnetic stir. So if you have one, this is a little bit fancy, and if you do have one of these things, make sure you set the hot. I just wanted to keep it warm while I was doing because it's been cold lately, so I just turned it up to 40 degrees centigrade, which is like 105 Fahrenheit. And then I set the, let me show you. Let me just, It's going, okay, so then I didn't, okay. All right, too many buttons. Okay, so I did set it initially at 700 RPM. So, and then my point right here is set the stir to 500 if you can set it. But the point that this makes, if you don't have dials, is that you don't want to spin it too fast, because I made a mistake where this thing was spinning too fast. I didn't know because of the foam. Right, because I couldn't see the top of the liquid. I only could see the foam. I didn't know that the thing had a really deep vortex, about an inch and a half down. And so the heat probe was sticking into the middle of the vortex. And what's the vortex? It's just air. And so the probe was not able to measure the temperature. And then the hot plate on my stir got really hot. When I finally noticed what was going on, I had actually burnt the liposomal vitamin C. So here's a picture just to show you that what happens if you burn this thing. If your water's too hot, you're going to burn it, and it's going to look like this. This is blender. This is sonicator. This is burnt. Okay, so I threw this out, but look how much volume it lost. It got really dense and very gross. So don't burn your liposomal vitamin C, and that's So hey, learn from my mistakes, but that's how we learn, right? So then I tried it again. And I put it in the stir. I stirred it overnight, and I let it sit for 24 hours. I let it sit overnight because I wanted to test. I wanted to take a look from a comparative standpoint as what's the difference between the three different ways of making it. So the very first one is saturation. This is saturation, meaning how much of the vitamin C actually saturated into the solution with the Lethicin, and that means how many, did it turn into liposomes? Because anything that doesn't turn into liposomes will settle to the bottom. Okay, if it hasn't been turned into liposomes, it'll just be this film on the very bottom. That's exactly how C60 oil works, right? And so this is the bottom of the jar from using the blender. So you can kind of see that there is a very thin film after 24 hours of what would essentially be vitamin C. So it did absorb the majority of the vitamin C, and there's a very thin film that settled out. So and this happens with every time I've ever made it. This is what happens. So the idea though is if you let it sit for a little while before you take it, just shake the jar. It's as simple as that. But there will be some residual, and this is what it looks like when you use a blender. Okay. And so now let's take a look at the next one, which is how much residual vitamin C is left when you use the sonicator. So that was the blender. This is what it looks like when you use a sonicator. So I couldn't tell the difference. It was like, because I never really tried the blender before. So I always use the sonicator because that's just how everybody does it. But hey, look at that. It looks the same. So now check it out. Check out the mixer. So this is where I use the stir. I use after 24 hours, the magnetic stir, letting it settle. And look at that. It looks exactly like the same. If anything, if you were just to stop right here, back up a sec. Look at that. See, look at it. I think this it looks thicker than the other two. So it's kind of like I'm trying to eyeball this thing. But at the end of the day, I think that the magnetic stir didn't do as good a job as the other two. And the other two were pretty much even, right? So recommendation, you guys are looking at the evidence, but you can go blender or cleaner, and then everyone's thinking right now, like, why would I buy a cleaner if the blender does a great job? There you go. Okay. So that's kind of why I tried all three. This was my tink. I have to do a tink every weekend or I go nuts. So I had to tink for this video. I don't know, for those of you who never saw my videos before, I do the Tinkers Academy. So that's it for that, okay? So those are your costs. That's how you make it. This is why it works. This is what's going on. Coronavirus is on our doorstep. Please take care of yourselves. This is one way to do it. If I am telling all of my friends and family that they really need to be doing three things right now, on top of taking the news seriously. And the three things, guys, ladies, prepare to be quarantined. If you're watching what's going on right now in Vietnam and you're watching what's going on in China, then prepare to be quarantined, and it could be weeks. The second thing you should be doing is boosting your immune system. What are you doing to boost your immune system? You know what? If you took regularly like 5 ounces, 6 ounces of liposomal vitamin C per day, you would be boosting your immune system. All right, so what are you doing? The third thing is prepare to self-treat. Because if you watch the news in China, getting medical assistance when, a million other people want medical assistance, you may wait a long time, long time. And you may not survive waiting a long time. So the word to the wise: prepare to be quarantined, prepare to self-treat, and boost your immune system. Please take care of yourselves. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate your time. I am a little nervous, and I am just trying to do the best I can to prepare my family for an incredible uncertainty, and the news is very, very scary. But I wanted to get this out as fast as I could because of the developments that are going on with alternative treatments in the coronavirus. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you have any questions at all, you know where to find me on Telegram. Further information, please refer to the links in the video description. And again, thank you for watching. Good luck. Take care of yourselves. Aloha.